everybody. Welcome back to Gaming the System, the podcast where a couple of intersectional feminists examine gaming through a feminist lens. Today, Jem and I are continuing our series of commentary on The Last of Us TV show. It's all finished now, and so no one has any excuse to have not finished it. You need to go and do it, and then come back and listen to us talk about it. Today, we are doing episodes 7 and 8. So this really is, I think, a test, a case study for what the following seasons are going to be, because this is Ellie at the centre, all about Ellie. And have you finished the second game yet?
No.
Whereabouts are you up to in that?
I'm at the same place as I was last time you asked me, which is Seattle Day 5, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So basically, So for anyone who doesn't know what happens in the second game, Ellie is the main character. So you play as her. It's her experience in the second game. And so this is, I think it's brilliant. I think it's such a different kind of show when Ellie's the main character. So first one, Ellie, Riley, left behind. What did you think of seeing these two play out that relationship?
I really liked it. I mean, I thought it was excellent that they went there, that they followed that storyline through with Ellie, and again, I mean, we've talked a load about this throughout the whole our whole sort of analysis of the series, but again, they gave it time. They gave it time to really kind of like get in and get a feel for who Ellie is and what's going on in Ellie's head and Ellie's world. And I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it had some really strong moments, and again showed how simple scenes can actually really tell you a lot very quickly. So I think we got this sort of we've got a whole background in that episode that was filled in a lot of gaps for us, I think.
Yeah, it really felt like they took, because with the game, they pretty much took it like word for word and scene for scene, and were able to sort of distill it down into the most potent parts because they didn't have to worry about gameplay.
Yeah.
So they were able to tell the same story. I thought one thing that was a particularly impactful is Ellie in the game. It just feels like she has no attachment to anything at the Fedra school where she is.
Yeah.
It just feels like she's just that outsider. And then when she finds out that Riley's joined the Fireflies in the game, it doesn't seem like that much of a big deal because Ellie doesn't really identify with anyone. But having her be sat down by the guy in charge and saying, you could be in charge, you could be an officer, you could be high ranking. And she goes, yeah, I want that. In that moment, she chooses that because she doesn't think Riley's coming back. She just thinks, oh yeah, this is the hand I'm dealt, and I'm going to go with this best option.
Yeah.
And then when she finds out that Riley is joining the Fireflies and is building pipe bombs, you just realise that, oh, Riley has chosen this side and Ellie had chosen the other side. like what would have happened if they hadn't.
It was a real Romeo and Juliet moment, I think, actually, which is such an in-ground story in our society that that we immediately um, bring in a whole load of information. Then, like this conflict, this sort of star-crossed lovers. You know, it's a whole. There's a whole heap of subtext that was just brought in very quickly just by that conflict of interests. I think that was, yeah, really well done.
Yeah, and the it's such a it is just like Romeo and Juliet because we, Romeo and Juliet isn't my favourite Shakespeare play. Othello is my favourite Shakespeare play. I love that play. I'd love to do a
Mhm.
version of it someday in the in the fantasy future. But yeah, so that like you say, the start that line in the start of Romeo and Juliet is star-crossed lovers take their life.
Mm.
So even though everyone knows it anyway, he says right at the beginning, these two lovers are going to die.
Yeah.
They're at the conclusion of this story. We know they're going to die,
Mm.
and then to have it, it's just a beautiful like case study in telling a beautiful short story,
Mm.
and the having it so and in terms of again an excellent job in normalizing LGBT relationships because it's just the teenage romance
Mm.
that has happened forever to tons of to everyone, and I just thought it was really sweet. I thought it was a really just sweet friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And I loved the way, oh, I've forgotten her name. I knew I was going to do this. Who's the girl that she's Riley?
Riley, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the way that Riley had like set all this stuff for her in the shopping mall, and the way that Ellie just responded to it with such excitement and enthusiasm. I loved like just really liked the way that Ellie just ran around playing on the escalator, and how and then how pleased Riley was that how excited Ellie was about everything that she'd sorted for her. And I really enjoyed um seeing Ellie's playful side again. And I think we talked before about when she was with the little boy that got infected, and how it was nice to see the sort of the her being her age, because so much of what Ellie goes through and what happens to her is very adult, and it's it's easy to forget how young she is. And so, you know, we got to see her playing with a sort of little kid, and then in this scene we get to see her, as you say, sort of exploring her first teenage love. And I love the scene when she's just sees herself in the mirror in the window, and she sort of like that tries to make herself like look presentable, because she's just got feeling about what's going on. And yeah, it was really subtly done, and I think, as you say, it just completely normalized the fact that it was two girls was irrelevant. You know, it was just that it was just two young people, and that's really nice and really well done, and not such a surprise since they had done that um other episodes earlier on with Bill and his partner, and they'd done that so sympathetically, so it felt to me that this was, that clearly these are people who are intentionally and um with, I think, passion, are working towards a more inclusive world, and they're doing their best to use this platform as a way to encourage that. So, it's all good, I think.
Yeah, and it's the one thing that jumped out at me recently is that Pedro Pascal is everywhere now. He is
Yeah.
probably the most universally beloved person on the planet at the moment.
Well,
Um,
Mandalorian's just come out. The new Mandalorian has recently come out as well, hasn't it? So yeah,
yeah, yeah. So he's just the most wonderful person ever. And for anyone who is against LGBT people, especially if you're against trans women, Pedro Pascal will hate you because his sister is a trans woman, which I didn't realize. And you see on his Instagram with 5 million followers, he he was putting up the rainbow flag with the trans colours at the top of it. And if for no other reason than you want Pedro Pascal to like you, stop hating on gay people. Stop hating on trans people. Stop hating on anyone else. Because
mm.
if you want him to like you, then that's step number one, I think.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, well, I don't know, but I do feel like this and The Mandalorian are the sorts of shows that are perhaps going to target the kind of people that might be challenged by the LGBTQ um, uh, plus communities, and struggle with the trans debate. I don't really think it is a debate, but anyway, the the trans fuss, and so they might struggle with that. And I think this is the sort of show that some of the people who can be reached via this. And I think that's really positive. I do think there is a really important thing to be said about using your platforms and taking a platform and using it for good, and doing as much as you can within that. And I do think that is what's happening in this show. I think they have worked really hard to consciously make it an inclusive show, and I think they've achieved it, actually, from what I've seen. I think the only thing that we don't see a lot of is disability. But saying that, Joel's character did talk about sort of being deaf in as a result of all the gunshots and things. So, and he does have yeah. I mean, when he was sort of, well, that's the next episode, so I won't get onto that.
Yeah, and we've got Sam as well being deaf.
Yes, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think. Have you listened to any of the podcast about it with Troy Baker?
No, I haven't. Although I have seen them, and yeah, wanted to. I just haven't
Yeah,
had
and I have
time.
Troy Baker is my favourite game actor. he's just the best. So having him there talk with Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, the two showrunners, is brilliant, and they talk constantly about. They were having tons of conversations with when they wanted to do gay middle-aged married men. They actually went out and talked to people who they knew who were middle-aged gay married men, and finding a deaf child to come and play, and finding out that there are hardly any deaf child actors,
Mm,
and learning and just bringing all of that in. And there was a woman
yeah.
who was raised. It was in a like an active war zone, and they thought, oh, she'll want to come and direct the episodes with Henry and Sam in because of all the horror. And she goes, nah, that's bullshit. And she wanted to, and so they got her to direct another episode. So it's diversity all the way through and intentional.
Yeah, that's good. That is good to hear.
We better talk about the end of, of the episode. Um, how did how do you feel about the end of it?
I'm glad that they left it where they left it. I was pleased that that was how they did it. Um, I mean, the whole episode had a feel like something bad is going to happen. I don't know if that's just like my age and my cynicism that I've spent so much time watching these kind of shows. So I'm just always like, you know, oh, if something really good is happening, you just know there's something really bad is around the corner. So I think I had that going on, and obviously I've played the game. So, um, but I thought it was really it was really powerful how they had this massive fight, and then they just both managed to like get out of the fight, and then suddenly to realize that they'd both been bitten was just such a like uh, a gut punch. Really, it was just hard. Um, but I think it was really interesting the way that um Ellie reacted, that she got so angry and so frustrated, like, no, I don't want this is not fair, this is not fair. And yeah, and I thought that was really nice that they properly explored that. And I have to say, I think that Bella's acting in that moment was awesome. She has real moments where I just think, this woman is going to go so far. She's so young, and yet she is such an amazing actress that I just believed her. She carried all of that rage and the unfairness of it, to have found this moment, to have had this love and this kiss and all of that, and then for this to happen. I mean, it totally was Romeo and Juliet. I mean, it just was. And yeah.
And even they both Romeo thinks Juliet's dead, and Juliet sees Romeo dead, and then they both end up
Yeah.
dying, but it was completely unnecessary. Um, I really like how it's such a rational, like normal, like that's how a crush can develop, and how that was that like dynamic. And then they're talking about, oh, but I could be the leader of Fedra, but I would be, if I stayed with you, then I'd be on ship duty forever.
Mm. Yeah.
And she's joined the Fireflies, and maybe I could leave and join the Fireflies too, but Marlene said that she couldn't bring her, so it can't work. But then when they kiss and she goes, please stay, and Riley goes, okay, then nothing before that moment matters. It's
Mm.
we're gonna. we're starting fresh from where we are right now, the two of us. Fireflies doesn't matter, Frederick doesn't matter. Whatever, we'll find a way. And so that's when they broke that dynamic. And then them getting both bitten is just, it's awful in every way. And Riley's so calm, and she must, can't imagine what she must be thinking, because it's all her fault that she brought Ellie there. She did it for her own sake. She was saying, I want to go and say goodbye to Ellie so she doesn't hate me,
Mm.
rather than just leaving. And then Ellie would have been safe. Ellie would have just had, he had that conversation that morning, so Ellie would have gone on to be doing that or whatever, and it would have been fine. But what I really like, and I think is quite an important seed to be sowing, that I'll come on to when we're talking about the next episode as well. Ellie's reaction, such, she embodies just rage and anger
Mm.
and hatred, and the way it's completely right. She just destroys everything, and then she sits down to just sort of think and just sort of panic and just, and how, I've been talking about, I don't think there's been enough violence in it. But the second game is defined by its violence, I think,
Mm.
and
Mm.
we can talk about that at length when we do another talk about the game, that game episode. Because holy shit, the violence in that is probably the most viscerally, realistically violent game I've ever played.
Mm.
And in order to be able to sell that in the coming seasons, you need to see Ellie like this earlier on. When so that's just a taste of it. Um,
Mm. I do think I did think when Riley said, if I stay with you, I'm just going to be on like shit duty, and I think that was a real wake up call to Ellie about the because when you then put that next to what the um guy had said at the start about, you can be one of the officers, and I think, yeah, that's one of those moments, and I think most of us have had it in life where we suddenly realize that, you know everyone's life isn't the same. We don't all have the same outlook. We don't all have the same privilege, and I think there is a moment for most of us where that happens, and we suddenly go like, oh, yeah, and it's a really hard lesson to learn. And I thought they show the sort of shock that she had as it dawned on her that, and I think the reality is that they wouldn't have been able to make it work. you know Bless them. I don't think they would have been able to make it work, not in this world, with everything that's going on. There's no way the Fireflies would have let Riley go. And you know and where would they go? How would they survive in this world? And I think so. I feel like it's almost like better that what happened in the end is better, because the alternative was probably going to just be a lot more miserable and a lot slower.
yeah, that's a fantastic, fantastic point, and very very well. Yeah, very well put. It was short and poetic. They had the
Mhm.
absolute peak of, yeah, we're going to stay together and we'll find a way, because they're children in the end. They
Yeah.
have no idea what's out there. So it's just they hit that point and they go, oh, we can lose our minds together. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, oh, yeah, it's tough. Um,
Mm.
and that's happened. It's hard to like remember that that stuff happened literally probably a week before she met Joel.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
actually wondered if and at the start, because I'd forgotten the game, I wondered if Riley was going to kidnap her because she
no,
was wearing the same clothes that well, I thought that Ellie was wearing the same clothes that she was wearing when she'd been grabbed. Um, but yeah, as you say, it must have been very quick between the two, but we still haven't seen that scene, have we? We haven't seen when she got grabbed. We just saw that she had been.
yeah, so it's just yeah. So we just find the first time we see her is just sat in the room chained up.
Yeah,
We don't.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think. Have we got any closing remarks on this episode? I think I've run out of everything.
No, I think we've covered everything. I just thought it was an excellent episode. I was, yeah, really enjoyed it, and I want to go into a abandoned shopping centre.